Good morning.
You lost your hat.
Good morning. I'm Arnie Shillman here with Adam Cagley. Welcome to Weekend at CHEWIE'S. It's Tahno Tuesday, baby.
Tahno Tuesday.
We're talking about Star Rebels Season 2.
Oh yeah, we in the good
Bring
shit.
it down.
Season 2, man. Season 2
The
is where
half-assed Big Mo Mozzarella impression right there.
it was a what?
I did a bad Big Mo Mozzarella impression. How you doing?
Who the fuck is that?
It's on TikTok.
Oh, yeah,
Famous Italian American Italian who, you know, every day is a parade. I don't know.
I do my best to ignore TikTok.
Early.
I don't like TikTok.
Okay.
We're in season 2 now. That's where Rebels like really starts fucking cooking with gas.
Yeah, so like that's what you were saying yesterday. You were like, "See, my favorite.
Oh yeah.
Everything that season 2 has keeps you glued." And when I asked you this morning how deep you are into season 2 in the rewatch, you said,
I'm like halfway through it. Yeah, I eat season 2 up because it's for me. It's just a race to Twilight of the Apprentice. But I was thinking about it last night when I was watching, and then a little bit again this morning when I was watching before we hopped on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like season 2 is my favorite because Rebels in general I think is my all-time favorite, but season 2 particularly because it's everything. It's like the deep Force lore and mythology. It's the strong heroes and their relationships. It's the villains that legitimately seem like they could kill the heroes.
Yeah.
The humor. It's the spectacle. Like it's literally everything I love about Star Wars. Everything that like when I watched the original trilogy when I was a kid that sucked me in. It's almost every episode of season 2 is all of that.
Yeah, they really do a good job of bringing everything together, you know, and putting the Ghost team into, I guess or Ghost crew into what I would call, they give it the Mando treatment.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you start seeing the revolving door and it at the end of season 1 where you see Vader and then the team meets Ahsoka and then, you know, Vader's really a part of it.
Vader's a huge part of it.
I mean, he's the villain when he says, you know, burn down Tarkingtown. It was like you sort of see like, that's the move where it's like the writers. This is the story.
that's you know, that's like one of the most cold-blooded Vaders.
Yeah.
Burn it. It orders like all these people relocated and their home destroyed and shit. It's one of like the more straight up evil Vader moments where he's like, let's use this town of this refuge. It's literally they say it's a refugee camp. Let's destroy this refugee camp to try to lure out these like 6 people.
Right. And then when they get back to the scene, they're just heartbroken. And you know, Kanan says like a lot of lives are lost for the decisions we make. And the beginning of you see Ezra start to question. And as an audience, you question, well, what greater good are we talking about? You know, and I think that's one of the beautiful things about this property. I mean, sometimes we talk about farts, some things, but you know, just to get like sort of queefy, if I may, about narrative. you don't see Luke get tested. What he wants to do and what he longs to do in the original film, A New Hope, is the thing that moves the plot forward.
Yeah.
Wants to get out of there, and then he gets the ability to.
Yeah.
And then everybody's dead. And so he's like, never mind. And I think a lot of people would say that gives him something to fight for, but I think to fight for him from the beginning. And something.
Oh yeah, he even states like very early on that he wants to join the rebellion.
Right. So like, all of this.
It's not that I like.
So I just think all of the story leading up to what inevitably ends.
Yeah.
He is defining what the greater good is, and you see him learning how tough decisions and making the choice to choose. I know he basically becomes Maul's apprentice at some point during the series, how that happens, but this definitely feels like the beginning of, now wait a second.
Yeah.
Wouldn't we have saved more lives if we just would have done something else?
The farther into season 2 and the closer you get to Maul showing up, I mean, I say it's like he basically becomes Maul's apprentice. It's for like an episode, but I mean, until Maul comes back, because Maul like refuses to refer to him as anything but my apprentice. But like as he gets closer to Maul showing up, there's so much more conflict. Particularly because like I'm up to the 8th episode. In those 8 episodes, there's so much more conflict that grows in Ezra. I mean, it's not even just doubts. He sees Kanan being like, well, I don't want to join this military. I want to just go out on my own and steal from the Empire and give to the people they're hurting. And like that puts the doubt in Ezra too. And it's
third episode,
but
you haven't seen the third episode.
You can reference it.
I'll reference it. I'll reference it.
I'm still here.
I'll reference it vaguely. You see a lot of like in the third episode too. The third episode is called The Lost Commanders. Kanan, at the urging of Ahsoka, has to work with a group of people able to trust.
Oh my god.
And the whole episode, he's like, well, I don't...
Is he working with Wada?
Yes. He spends like that whole episode, despite the fact that like they have to work together to survive. He spends the entirety of the third episode being like, I get it, we got to work with these guys, but as soon as they can, they're going to try to kill me because I'm a Jedi.
They're working with Watto.
Close.
Who is it?
It's Boss Nass.
I love Boss Nass. He's my guy. We got to put in the. Oh yeah.
It's not Boss Nass.
It's not Boss Nass. It's Bo-Katan.
It's not Bo-Katan.
It's Bo-Katan's sister.
She's super dead already.
It's Axe Woves.
Yes, it's Axe Woves.
It is Axe Woves?
They eat his turkey bacon.
No, who is it? Who is it? Is it Boss Nass? Is that?
Rex.
I don't what? It keeps on breaking up right when you say it. It sounds like you're saying rats.
It's Rex. It's Captain Rex.
Oh, Captain Rex.
Yes. Guys, and he finds them, and it's Rex.
Can I just say?
Yeah.
I'm like super embarrassed, but it's also early and we're great.
I thought you were doing a bit.
I am not doing a bit. Like literally, I was like, he keeps on pointing to the Bo-Katan helmet, and I can't see the insignia because it's choppy. When I'm looking at it's choppy. So
that's fair. Okay. No, that's my point is like, I think a lot of Kanan's shit pushes Ezra to that point where Maul shows up and is like, "Hey, I can teach you this shit. This guy doesn't know anything," and he's like, "Okay, maybe." And then it's like, I mean, obviously, by the end of the season, Kanan has like had his come to Jesus moment and is like, "Okay, I need to." Okay. That was one of the notes I had for the first 2 episodes because it's something we haven't talked about yet.
I'm listening. I'm listening. Though. Sorry.
Something that we hadn't talked about through the entire first season, and I don't know how the fuck we managed to. How fucking good Freddie Prinze Jr. is in this.
You know, I wish he still loved. I mean, I'm sure he still loves Star Wars, but
the fans killed it for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of hard to get in there. Oh, hello.
The fandom like 100% killed his boner for it, but
come on.
He's so fucking good in this show. I also noted like I think outside
Kanan are my favorite
like master apprentice relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I think Kanan is the coolest.
Yeah,
Jedi hybrid, whatever. He is a Jedi, but
yeah,
he's got.
As much as it is Ezra becoming a Jedi, it's also like Kanan through teaching Ezra becoming the Jedi he left behind at the end of Order 66.
I mean, I also think there's a beautiful about the universe when we come into it is that Yoda says is like Jedi there aren't any left. Once you become the Jedi, you'll be the last one to Luke, right? So there's this idea that seeing the world where Jedi lived among us, you don't feel the loss when you first find out what a Jedi is, but now a new sense of recontextualizing what that moment was.
Mm-hmm.
It's like being born. I don't want to be so harsh, but it's like being born after something horrible has happened in your world or your country.
Oh like, yeah. Ezra doesn't know what it was.
Yeah, exactly. If you lived pre 9/11, you have a lot more context for what the fuck happened out here. Yeah. And a lot more reason for like why it defines some people's lives, the controversy, the actual personal connection to either the victims in it or the people who joined the war effort directly following it. It's like there's so much fallout from moments like that in our own history that Star Wars acts as an allegory. And I don't think it was even intentional, an allegory for modern times, but that's what happens,
I mean,
so
I think it kind of was because New Hope was
Order 66 is like clearly like the Holocaust or something,
Yeah, I mean, Lucas had intended from day one on New Hope for these to be his statement on that shit. Like he said before that New Hope is his take on like Vietnam.
For the kids, though.
Yeah, with the Empire being the U.S. and the Rebels being the VC, but he's talked a lot about how like these stories are ultimately supposed to be very anti-war. So like, yeah, it makes sense that like Ezra doesn't really even understand what it means to be a Jedi. I mean, at this point, he doesn't understand what it means to be a Jedi. By the end, he 100% does. Because it's also the kind of thing where like Kanan really doesn't even understand it anymore. Because
what does it look like? The tapestry is as the book is closing. You know what I mean? It's funny that these are when the stories are happening because in the Last Jedi or the what is it called? Is it called the sequel trilogy?
Yeah, the sequel trilogy.
Okay. So yeah, even in that trilogy, you really see like Jedi have been gone for such a long time.
Yeah,
so many generations that Jedi is more like you know, like Zeus or something,
Yeah.
or dragons.
I mean, you also
I
get
just
that with Han in New Hope, where he's like, hokey religions and ancient weapons.
right.
Sorry, I cut you off. Go ahead.
No, but I still think, you know, I liken it to like Santeria or something like that, where,
Yeah.
you know, if you in the 70s, there's people who practice ancient religions with hokey ceremonies or whatever the quote
Mhm.
was. And it's like, I think everywhere you go on earth, you're going to know people who have done that or are connected. But specifically, you know, in the middle of the 1900s, towards the end of it, that's when we really started seeing like the corporatization of like all of theology, right? So
Yeah.
um, it's always been like warfare, but I think more specifically, like it's a part of our lives in like a monetary way as well. So what the Jedi are, more than just like sort of a cool ripoff of samurai and made sci-fi, you know, like what they stand for and who they are and like what it means to be a Jedi, that being rewritten by the people who have the abilities,
Yeah.
this higher power, not just the force, but you know, the myth, the mythos, the narrative structure, the the whole point of, you know, why people wanted to see Sor at the end of Mandalorian season 3 is because like, well, there's this lore where things are supposed to happen, that where crazy shit happens, and you told us that as an element of this story, so that's a promise that it needs to happen within this story.
Yeah.
You know, or something significant needs to happen with it. And I think that's what's so beautiful about Star Wars, is that they can pitch and hit those really heavy, what a horrible metaphor. They can set lofty goals and put those goals in the story, and everybody getting their hopes up is what like gets new people attached and like, maybe this will be good, right? The actual execution of like plugging only the animated series since Mandalorian season 2. I think Mandalorian season 1 and 2 and the animated series. This is the best way to put ones where they've delivered. They've completely delivered on their promise, on their message. And now I've been talking for 3 minutes and I pretty much haven't said anything.
No, I mean, you have, because like, I mean, particularly in regards to Rebels, just because it's like, it's
Rebels is so tight. I can't believe it was on Disney. Like,
yeah.
Rebels is so tight. Bad Batch, you know, I just feel so embarrassed that I didn't recognize Rex.
I mean, it's so good. I mean,
No, but I even had the thought while I was watching. I was like, do you think Vader kept hiring Boba because he's a
Rex,
clone of Rex?
I mean,
Like,
that is a fan theory.
There's so many things that are like getting inside of Vader's head for this series because of when it takes place.
Yeah. That is like, that's been a pretty prevalent fan theory for a while, that Vader kept going back to Boba because on some level his voice reminded him of the clones, and that's why he kept hiring him. Which I fucking love that idea, that little spark of Anakin somewhere deep down inside Vader would hear Boba's voice and think of Rex and think of Cody and think of all the other clones, and kept hiring him just because of that. And it's like, there are moments throughout Rebels, and even in like the last,
I mean, in Kenobi too, for that matter.
there's moments all over the place where it's like, as bad as Vader is and as worse as he gets, there's still this like tiny little glimmer of Anakin deep down within him, and it's you know, inevitably Luke that's able to bring that forward completely. But it's like, that's the cool symbolism behind cutting his mask, because when he fights Ahsoka slices up the left side,
slices the right side of it, but
Luke
is able
to take the mask off completely. Because I mean, when he goes back to the clones, I honestly believe that he goes back to Boba because Boba reminds him of the clones. Of Siege of Lothal 2, where Ahsoka and Kanan are reaching out, and he has that moment of recognition and goes, "The apprentice lives." Why does that matter to Vader? It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as like the end, the final scene of Clone Wars, where it fades from the downed ship and Ahsoka to like years and years later, and it's that moon covered in snow, and the probe droids and the snow troopers and Vader's boots, and he walks up to the mass grave of clones and picks up Ahsoka's lightsaber. It's like Vader didn't need to go to some fucking remote moon to find a downed Venator to pull out a dead Jedi's lightsaber to confirm that she didn't survive. Vader in no way needed to confirm that Ahsoka died, but that little bit of Anakin needed to know if she made it or not.
Well, I think Vader's so scary is that he is actively fighting Anakin Skywalker, and that's what keeps Vader in charge. Is he can make Anakin Skywalker angry.
Yeah, that's why my favorite Vader moment is at the end of Kenobi. He's like, "I am not your failure, Obi-Wan." Like he's trying to like intimidate and scare Kenobi as much as he's trying to convince himself.
Right, or that's Anakin that is so let down and pained by his life experience.
Yeah, it's looks
and acts like that.
Yeah,
but the physical being.
It's like when you break up with an ex and you're like, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, yeah,
were you there when I broke? Were you there when I've been breaking up with?
No, we just did the same thing.
Oh yeah.
Mine involved a lot more alcohol.
Yeah. Mine was the first one. I don't remember the reason why I broke up with my friend. Really, there was a bunch of bullshit that I said at the time that were all fucking bullshit. I think I was just tired.
Yeah. I
think I just like hadn't slept in like 2 months and I was done. And I shouldn't have thrown that away, but I was also. And then, and when I wasn't at the time, and then like I wasn't on set for the second breakup, so I was just stoned all the time and depressed. And she left me, baby. So happy Star Wars stream.
Oh, so yeah, that's kind of the point I'm getting at. Is like he's and there's also that part of like he needs to keep reminding himself that he's not Anakin anymore, and like pushing it down and down and down,
right?
Just to like just to like suppress the pain of everything that he's gone through and the guilt and remorse of what he's done.
Right.
To like constantly remind himself that Anakin's gone and he's not that person anymore.
Right.
That's one of my it's why Twilight of the Apprentice 1 and 2 are my favorites, because the duel with Ahsoka, there's like Anakin right. She slices open his mask, and it's like up until then he's only referred to her as the apprentice, but after she cuts open his mask, he says her name, and it like snaps her into an empathy that he then, as Vader, exploits. But I mean, that's way ahead. At the moment, we just got him being evil and shit.
Well, what I think it's so great that it builds into such a crescendo.
Yeah.
Like, pardon me, is the crescendo gets louder when Vader becomes involved.
Yeah. I mean, Vader, like, I think it's around like the third or fourth episode, Vader does like step back and sends another Inquisitor in.
Uh-huh.
But that Inquisitor one in, and then one becomes two. And he's like
Which
mostly. Oh fuck! I don't remember. The Inquisitor is so crossed because it's like the seventh sister and the eighth brother. I get their like, who the fuck do you keep track of them?
I really want like a snake person.
No, there's no snake person.
A snake person. I'm stop.
Just like a dude with no legs, and just like.
Just literally just Nagini. Just the character Nagini, but a Sith.
she's got a lightsaber in her mouth, just like.
No, just like a badass, you know, this woman. Maybe I don't know if Nagini's Chinese or Japanese. Probably Japanese. Nagini, right? The name. I think Nagini's probably Japanese. I apologize. Who I am offending.
I mean, it's Rowling, so she probably appropriated something. So. Have you seen that movie? It's an Irish wizard, and the name is like Guinness O Potato Famine or something like that.
I mean, she literally named her character Cho Chang. Like, that's fucking bad, bro. That's like literally like so bad.
I was rewatching those movies recently, and every time Cho Chang was on, it's just like every time they say her name, because they never really refer to her as just Cho, they always refer to her as Cho Chang. It's such a cringe moment every time.
One of the things, like, I processed a lot of that type of racism that I saw, was a part of in my life when I started producing Mr. Yuniyoshi.
Sure,
you know,
makes sense
because it's such a, you know, it's a show that deals with race and sort of healing yellowface and you know, particularly Asian American representation in cinema specifically. But so basically, you know, when the story's so fucked up, you can't help but just like let it wash over you, and it sort of your emotions about the story take over.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's really sad stories about like dogs being adopted, you know, families falling apart. This is one of those stories where I saw a teacher that a bunch of my friends had in high school, and they were with me, and they went and they talked to the person, and the person left, and they came back to me and they were like, I can't believe we haven't seen him. The last time we saw him was the thing that got him fired. What got him fired was that there was a kid named like Susie or something, Chang. And every day he would sing Chang, Chang, Chang.
I mean,
that, and so I heard it. It made me laugh so hard when I heard it. But that is exactly what we're talking about, like Michael Scott level.
Yeah.
So wrong. How could you possibly think that was right? You're an educator.
That's like Michael Scott throwing Oscar a fiesta when he comes back to work.
Dude. Or just Ping. Him doing Ping, you know? Come on.
I choose to forget about some of Michael Scott's like more egregious moments. Like that's why I will not watch.
That's the point of him.
Yeah.
The point is that he's like, but I'm the boss, which means there's no rules. And it's like, what if you had the worst boss ever?
I will not watch any season 1 episode of The Office just because Michael is so fucking insufferable in season 1.
Go episodes that are the realest.
I know, but he's
like
just,
Larry Wilmore and stuff.
Yeah.
They're thought of by people of color, most likely sharing experiences that are close to or inspired by what they've already gone through. That's why I think I don't think it's okay. Behavior's not okay, but how they show you the behavior is that real, so cringeworthy. You have to laugh at it because it's like, by laughing at it, you're taking the power away. You're going, I know that's wrong. It's not, you're not supposed to do that.
See,
You know?
I agree with that, but he's so it's so hard to watch him in season 1.
Of course it is.
He's just so
Hard to watch. I mean, cringe comedy like Curb Your
Well, it's
Enthusiasm.
like-
There are some episodes of Curb early on where I have to be like, next.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine being you. It makes me sad.
like kind of matures throughout. Like by the time he leaves, he's a very likable character. But
Michael Scott.
But season 1, he's just there's like one moment in particular with. I mean, I'm sure you know the one I'm talking about too. I just can't fucking do it.
With Kelly Kapoor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the.
Yeah, that's the scene. I can't handle that. Like it's like if I had watched that show when it originally aired and I saw that
racist shit get hit, bro. I mean, like I don't know. If you pull the string of how they tell the story, I think they do it in the way where they show that the lead and the person with the smallest amount of social and also the person who gets fucked over by his boss the most is the regional manager. So you see the full scope of why he is the way he is.
Yeah, that's true.
You want to be in leadership is because you know so little about what the job actually entails. But the idea of being in charge of everybody means I can force everybody to be my friend.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's him at the core.
Right. And that, as an actor, right? Like looking at the person, that he never shows that. That's the brilliance of his pathos, is that it seeps out. He doesn't go, here it is, and then move on. And here it is, like so many other TV shows do. With Michael Scott, it drips out of the cracks of what he's doing.
Yeah.
So naturally, you can't help but be like, oh, he really doesn't know. He doesn't know. And you're sort of like, poor guy.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I mean when I say he becomes likable. Like he gets sympathetic, and like a lot of his shit does tone down by the end, but it's like,
well, yeah, just like with every character you get to know better as you spend more, like you said about what's it called? My God.
I can't remember either. Oh shit.
I think it was Guardians 3.
I didn't see Guardians 3.
That's probably I want to call him Thrasher, but I know it's not his name.
Chopper?
Yeah. Chopper. By the end of it, you understand what he's saying.
Oh, yeah. Like, even by season 2, you understand more of what he's saying.
Yeah. You spend so much time with him, you have context for who he is. And you get to... You build... Oh, character wouldn't do that. Character would do that. Character would do that. Character would do that as the audience member. So then... the people who are writing the stories are just having fun and games with your expectation that they've already built by TV. You know what I mean? Who these people are, who these characters represent.
Something else I wanted to bring up that we hadn't really talked about in the first season is the lightsaber design, because a lot of people have a lot of issue with the design of the lightsabers in Rebels.
I think they're more as to like what they would not probably what they would look like in real life, but the lightsaber is not just a solid beam of light; it's a blade of light. So
I mean, the issue isn't even
there's different sounds when you hit it from different angles.
The issue isn't even so much that, because that's actually something I appreciate that like the sequel trilogy and the newer shows do is. I mean, I get that the technology was fairly limited in the OT and in the prequels. But something that I appreciate that the sequels and the new shit does is they make the blades glow. Like when they're fighting, you can see the color. Versus it just being like this thing that's made of light but doesn't actually emit any light. The thing that people, for some reason... Yeah.
The shape is like... It's like that. It's not a... you know, so by a side on the side, it's a little bit longer. It's not a cylinder of light, is what I'm saying.
That's the thing that people have issue with the lightsabers in Rebels is like they're farther like swords to like fencing rapiers. They're like the long, super thin blades.
Yeah, I think that's actually what a lightsaber is, but the way light interacts with our eyes,
Yeah,
because of what's in it and the kyber crystals, there's more of like a glow to it, like a neon light.
well, it's something cool that goes back to the Ralph McQuarrie art too, because some of his original designs for Luke holding his lightsaber, it's very thin. Like it starts wider at the base and gets thin.
Yeah, it becomes like a laser sword.
That's
It's something that I appreciate that Filoni does with.
with both shows, but particularly Rebels, is bringing in. I mean, we talked about this before about how I like that, like
The original.
he used, yeah, like the ship from Star Tours and like the old Kenner toy that he, and yeah, like the droid design, like Lando's droid, when they go back to Lando.
By the way, his droid is so racist. It's so racist.
The one with the southern accent.
Green. It sounds like Seth Green doing like a plantation accent.
It probably is.
I know Seth Green does a couple of these voices. I'm not crazy, right?
No, yeah, he does.
Every now and then I'll hear a voice. And I'm like, that is Seth Green.
He did a couple on Clone Wars too. No, yeah, like Lando's droid. That's an OG design for 3PO.
Yeah, makes sense.
So they bring it all like that's.
But it's like if you like the physical media, right, which is so much of what Lucasfilm and LucasArts, that's where the money came from, right? So if you're a fan of that stuff, it has like it has never been used to the level with which it was used on Mandalorian and then things afterwards. The only reason it was available is because so much work had been done for video game mapping and for the animation that they already had, that the worlds existed, right? So the detail is really what you needed to go on, and it's not like real screen projection isn't new. It's like they had the content bank and the world to was there in order to do it, you know. And I'm sure eventually it will cut production costs so much more than it already has.
Yeah.
But I think that's the beauty of like Star Wars at its core is you're watching sort of the most classic stage work, practical effect design from the get-go with Ralph McQuarrie.
Yeah.
Everything else that comes from that initial art, the initial concept design, is based in human principles, you know, and a world that has a reference point to our world, you know. Not a lot of other sci-fi things have that. Other sci-fi things. So Dave Filoni is, you know, and us, people in our generation, and Jen Corbett, it's like people with the action figures and the books. I remember I would go to the library at Westlake Elementary when I was a kid, and they had all of these Star Wars books. And it's like none of them were about the movies. They were all new stories.
Confused the hell out of me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I picked up one of the books from Luke's Jedi Academy when I was a kid, and I read the movie.
Right.
I was so annoyed.
Han and Leia had like 3 kids, and like
and I was like, when did they do any of this? This doesn't count. It took me a while to really get into the extended universe because I was like, when I was younger and it was new, I almost like resisted against it.
Right, but you know, thinking about it more as merchant around the movie, and less as like building the extended universe.
Yeah,
like the literary universe is so dense, and there's so much available. I mean, just since Disney acquired it, there's month. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much new stuff, and it's such a fertile ground, and they haven't stopped making stuff. So I just think, you know, we've got our eyes on Filoni because he's the one doing all of the cartoon stuff. But, you know, more importantly, I think anybody who's doing anything new with Star Wars is probably not reading the new comics or like Chewie Adventure or whatever, you know,
Well,
like all of those things.
The Vader comics are good to go to because that's just I mean I'm always gonna be a shill for anything that
Yeah, Vader's a really interesting character.
But like some of the stuff they're doing in the books now, the High Republic era has been really interesting. It's just been like I read the first one and then made
until it's done to read the rest.
Because the first one, Light of the Jedi, was really good. But it's also like the High Republic is being published across like 4 or 5 different book series. There's a children's series, a young adult series, and a comic, all set in the same era, telling the same story. So it's like you pick up it's like you pick up Light of the Jedi, and it's telling you like the main actual story, but then you go pick up the the young adult novel, and it's about like, okay, these characters that were doing this in the main central story, this is what their apprentices were doing at the time and why they weren't involved in this. And then this, and it's like, and this is what the younglings were doing. And you read the comics and it's a completely different story that all ties to the same thing. So it's like, I instead of following that year after year, because they're putting out like entirely new, I decided like I'm gonna wait until it's all done instead of trying to keep up with it. I'm gonna go find it when it's all done, because keeping up with it is a lot. And like, I'm not gonna read the kids' books. I'm really not even gonna read the young adult books, and I haven't really fucked with the comics. So
I
will read the core novels.
Right. I don't think there's a way to launch like a sci-fi series even through Star Wars that will connect in the way a new property would need to, you know?
I mean,
like
the High Republic shit serves a purpose because like the Acolyte is set in the winter. I'm like,
sorry, cry.
They have a few properties that are coming out of High Republic outside of the books. But what's impressive about it is like they literally assembled all of like the top fan favorite Star Wars writers and like assembled them all at the Lucas Ranch. There's video of it. It's really cool to watch. They assembled them all at a conference room at the Lucas Ranch and set them up with pens, notepads, and a whiteboard, and were like, come up with an entirely new era of the galaxy.
I love it.
And like they spent months at the Lucas Ranch breaking all these stories, and then it was like, okay, I'm gonna go write this one, you're gonna go write this one, you're gonna go write this one, we'll come back, we'll do the sequels, I'm gonna go write this sequel, you're gonna go write this. It was like I appreciate it just because like that's a massive undertaking for literature. To get like 12 authors together to write one series, that like getting 2 authors together to write a book is an achievement. Getting 12 authors together to write one cohesive story is ridiculous.
Right. Well, I think that's the, not to sort of veer off topic, but like what Feinberg and I have been working on, is, and John and I too, is heavily inspired by like Isaac Asimov.
Sure, I can see that.
And not the earlier works of writers,
sure,
like L. Ron Hubbard, world. But the reason they were writing so much, and the reason why they wrote about so many things, and they were always inventing, and why sci-fi is such a beautiful thing, is because it's expansive. you can write a book about a specific event and detail everything out using like fantastical jargon in beautiful language, and people would buzz through it just like they buzz through a season of TV now. And now it's a season of TV. It used to be a movie. It used to be, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the whole idea behind getting people to do that and then making more work derivative of that is antiquated. You need everybody in there getting paid a day rate to develop your IP, and then you decide what they did. Because then you have like a 16-page document or a 160-page document that's like your Silmarillion. You know?
Yeah. Basically.
And it could just be for 100-year, shot within a galaxy, and then you can make as much content as you want out of that. You just sort of have to order it, and like I'm really excited to see what we can do here with the Fandalorian, because we don't have a writers team. We don't have a team of authors getting together, but like we got ChatGPT, we got Nida. I think with 3 people you can kind of take over the world, to quote Joey Coco Diaz.
I mean, I honestly like the reason why I'm so stoked on the newer idea you had for Fandalorian is like it gives us purchase to do literally anything we want, any story we think of, with any character, time period, any setting, any fucking planet. It's like the new idea that you had is basically the animated equivalent of playing with a toy box full of Star Wars toys. And that excites the fuck out of me because that's how I spent the first 20 years of my life. So,
right. Well, I'm still maintaining your character getting plucked and thrown into sort of the Mando timeline.
Yeah.
And then Nida's character winds up with Ahsoka, but it's like the whole idea of how it happened is what we talked about. Yeah. And because of that, like, you'll be able to sort of get quantum leaped through through your Fandalorian to different eras and different characters.
Yeah.
But,
that's exactly what I mean. It's playing with the toy box.
But all I want to do is create new characters, like all I want to do is put like a Jew in Star Wars. So god bad. Like I want to really, Zeb's got a brother who's like, or a cousin, like fat, and he's a rabbi, and he's like a giant stinky cat ape rabbi. And Ron Perlman will do the voice. Yeah. Or like Sephardic, like me. Like I would love to see a Sephardic Jew in the Star Wars universe, playing Sabak. There's so much stuff we haven't seen in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Stories we haven't heard that are more human. And then also just like dealing with the thing that we always joke about, which is how do you some of these species? How do these guys bang? Like I always ask that because it's the first thing on my mind. I'm looking at Bosk and I'm going, how does he have Whoopi? How do you?
Well, I with the Mon Cala. How are they fucking? What are they making?
But like Hera. If Hera and Kanan had a kid, could they have a kid?
I don't want to spoil anything.
They do have a kid. What about Frog Lady? If Frog Lady
fuck Mando,
Bosk want to get together, how does he inseminate the eggs in her backpack?
He jerks off on it.
Ugh, don't.
She opens the backpack.
We get to see Jar Jar come. Oh man.
Yeah, I'll spoil that. Hera and Kanan have a son at the end. There's an epilogue to the final episode that cuts to it's like 2 years after Return of the Jedi, and it's a few years after Return of the Jedi, and she's got like
Not in the Ahsoka trip.
yeah, and when she's flying in the Ghost, she has a kid in the cockpit next to her that's like green. And it's like it's mentioned that before Kanan dies, he had managed to knock up Hera.
Wow.
Probably like the day he died. Not the day he died, but like before she got taken and he had to
through the using the Force.
No, I think they fucked. I think they had some dirty, stanky cave sex.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Give me this.
Ezra's sleeping in the cave next to him, just trying not to hear it.
What if it was Ezra?
That'd be weird, because he's a child.
At the end, he's not a child.
Yeah, I guess.
20 at the end?
I don't know. I don't know how old Ezra's supposed to be at the end of Rebels. How old is Ezra? Yeah, by the end of Rebels,
Wait, repeat that?
By the end of Rebels, he's 19.
He's 19. Okay.
Yeah. Something I also like. I noted that I really appreciate about season 2 and Ezra is his.
Yeah.
Rare do you see a character get wounded in a cartoon and then have a scar in the next season. That's so cool. I don't know why I'm like so into that idea, but I think it's a really cool idea.
Yeah, no, I like that idea.
Yeah.
When you see everybody get like, cool tools and stuff.
Yeah.
Packs and everything. So why wouldn't you? Okay, so here's the latest cut of our first scene.
Fuck yeah.
Here you go.
Get up.
What is this?
Who goes there?
I'm Adam. I wrote this fan fiction.
Are you a member of the Empire?
It looks fan fiction.
Are you one of Moff Gideon's crones or clones?
I'm most a clone of Moff Gideon.
I spent time in the most definitely system. It's pretty chill. You're going to have to come meet my son. I'm Din Djarin, the Mandalorian. And my son is Din Grogu. And I'm Mandalorian.
Really, shouldn't it be like Grogu Djarin?
I didn't come up with a name.
I know, but he's got 2 first names. It'd be like a Jim Adam.
Right, but this is sort of a cultural conversation. I don't know to comment on it because I am a Mandalorian. You're commenting on my culture, and I am a Mandalorian, but you're not a Mandalorian. So how could you have an opinion?
But I mean, I could be a Mandalorian. All I need is a helmet and to get in the tub.
Wait a second. How'd you know about the magic hot tub?
How'd you know about the magic hot tub?
So you did write this fan fiction. So Grogu's probably Yoda's clone.
I mean, not everybody's a clone, man.
Well, then he's the baby of a clone.
Not everybody's the baby of a clone, man.
Grogu is Yaddle's kid.
I don't think Yaddle had a kid.
I've heard a lot about Yaddle. And I haven't even heard of this Yoda guy.
She's Yoda with a ponytail.
Are you hungry?
Almost always.
Cool. I stole a bunch of turkey bacon from Max Woves.
Bacon from Max Woves. We got to make that a t-shirt.
So yeah, so the next scene is you see Nida with Ahsoka, and then it's you and Grogu. What the hell? Where's my turkey bacon?
Where's my turkey bacon? I love it. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, and we still have to. I've written an opening scene where we see you're like, I've uploaded my fan fiction, and then there's like a voiceover that happens where it's like, on this date in this universe, a rip happened in the time in the I have it written down better. So a rip happened. You see like a hand come out of a computer screen and like pull you like this. So it's like Ahsoka getting the world between worlds. Yeah, and so
it's giving me Little Shop vibes. Yeah.
Whoa. You're like, engaging in what's it called? Internet anger with Nida.
Yeah.
Somebody says you couldn't survive a day in this universe, and you're like, I could. I created this place, and it's like, and right at that moment, like light strikes or something, and then the hand comes out and pulls you guys, and then it's like, oh. But I've decided it's no longer a musical because it's gonna.
Yeah, I wondered because when you were like, it's gonna be a 10-minute episode every week with 3 songs. I'm like, that sounds like a shitload of work.
Yes. No, there will be music, but it will underscore.
Yeah.
And
writing
songs, but
musical numbers 3 a week sounds like a lot.
Yeah, no, it's a lot easier just to sort of like do a little animatic like that to VO the script that you wrote.
Yeah.
Sort of a lot easier. But yeah, that's what I got. And this last part, I'll pull it back up. I'm like farting.
Yeah.
All
So you did write this fan fiction. It was probably Yoda's clone.
I mean, not everybody's a clone, man.
Well, then he's the baby of a clone.
Not everybody's the baby of.
Grogu is Yaddle's kid.
I don't think he had a kid.
I've heard a lot about Yaddle, and I haven't even heard of this Yoda guy.
She's Yoda with a ponytail.
Are you hungry?
Almost always.
Cool. I stole a bunch of turkey wolves.
Not to be like, I think that looks pretty good, but like developing it, right? Which is what we're doing. It's like that's pretty chill, right? Like, you're not wrong. Like, I'm super into that.
It reminds me of like the tracking shots in the Flintstones, where they would just like rotoscope the background behind them. It reminds me of that, and I dig it. I dig the shit out of it.
Yeah, it's just one picture. And I'm just elongating it, and flipping it.
That's all they did too.
Zooming and putting a blur on the background. Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, I love you. Thank you to our one viewer.
Yeah.
We're gonna see you guys on Thursday morning where we talk about the next. Where should we go? 5 more? 5 or 8 or
at episode 5 or 5 more?
5 more. So episode 7 or episode 8?
Yeah, let's go to 8 because I'm already on 8.
Let's go to episode 8. Thank you for always bringing such great insight, great conversation, and show this first episode on Thursday. Very excited.
Yeah. Love you too, dude.
Is there anything you want to say before we jump off?
No.
All right. I'm Arnie. That's Adam. This is CHEWIE'S. This has been Tahno Tuesday.
We'll
Take it easy,
on Thursday.